All right, so season 4, episode 1 of Godfather of Harlem. So we got pretty much like sort of like a recap of what happened in the last season with like the death of Malcolm X and about how he got killed. And he got shot with a sort of shotgun to the chest, and it was like a whole big hysteria in the last season. But then for the first episode, like we got Malcolm X's wife, like Mrs. Shabazz, and she was um in front of the jury and was explaining about like the details of what happened. And you had like Omar and the two other guys that was sitting at the court, and she basically said that they was the ones to have killed her husband. But we see that Elise was in the court. She was in the courtroom, and that's when she knows that Omar didn't have anything to do with Malcolm X's death. Like, he had nothing to do with it. In fact, he wanted to protect Malcolm X. And then when there was no justice done, that's when we seen her later on go over to Bumpy, and she tried to talk to him and try to say like, well, there gotta be something done here. And that's when Bumpy's like, well, fuck all that shit. He did this shit. Let the fucker rot. And that's when she was just like, come on, man. Like, I sort of love this man, so we try to do something about this. No, fuck him. So he's dealing with that whole thing. But then we know that Joe Colombo gets out of prison because after what happened in the last season, where both Bumpy and Chin kind of like set up Joe, it was just like, yo, the feds is coming. And that's when he gets arrested alongside with Jose Battle. They both get arrested in the last season. So he gets out, and he's in front of like the rest of the mob, right, with like Chin and Gambino. They're all at the table. And then that's when he's just like, well, what are we going to do about Chin Gigante? Like, what are we going to do about him? Because he basically had me put away. And that's when he was just like, well, since I can't come after you, I can come after Bumpy. And that's when Chin was just like, you're not going to come after Bumpy because Bumpy's under my protection after like the last season. Because Bumpy and Chin, they was cool. They was cool in the last season. It was pretty much cool because they didn't really like Colombo as much. They didn't like how this guy just weaseled his way in. Didn't like him. So that's when Chin was just like, basically, go fuck yourself. I'm not selling you any doogie. You ain't getting shit. So that's when he's just like, okay. And he leaves, and then we see him go over to Stella, and that's when he talks to Stella. And he's just like, well, technically, you owe me because I protected you and I've done everything that I can. So he's just like, all right. And Stella got like some sort of like a change up this season, because compared to like the last couple of seasons, she was more like this timid girl, right? Sassy but timid girl, right? Because she had like few love interests, but obviously they was murdered and killed, right? Because Chin was just like, no, you're not gonna be sleeping around with my daughter, especially that black guy who died in the first season, I believe. And then she kind of like had a spiral of not having too many good men in her life. So that's when she comes up with this plan of, all right, try to talk to her father about getting Colombo some sort of work to work with him and try to give him some doogies to sell. And that's when we see like later on she talks to Colombo, because at the time Colombo was trying to set up Chin Gigante, have him meet in this spot, this location that he planned out, so that way they could serve him drinks and serve up some sort of food or whatever. And then the waiter comes in back of him and shoots him. But joke's on him. Stella kind of was already 2 steps ahead and was just like, you're not going to do any of that because I already know what you was about to do. So that's when the plan is for Joe Colombo to, I guess, work with Stella, because Chin was like, well, if y'all two working together and you sell it through her and there's like some sort of transaction, it could work. But she's going to take her cut out of all of this, and it seems like Colombo is not going to like that as much. Well, it's not like he's not going to like it. It's more like he may not like the transition, because it's more of the whole, it's a woman. Because even when Chin was explaining to Stella when he was at the we're going to call it Chin's club or Chin's hideout, right? We're going to call it that. And they was talking, and he was just like, well, technically this is still, you're a woman and I don't need you embarrassing me in front of the guys. And she's like, it's 1966 and, things have changed, but it's just like, it's still in the man's world of handling the business and not being showed up or being disrespected by a woman. And it's just like, come on here. So I like this bold approach of what Stella has become, and she's in the character development because she's gone through a lot these past few seasons. So I like the change up of what she's become rather than just being a person who said she was always angry or tried to kill herself because everything that Chin kind of did to her. So she was just like, she's different now. So now she's, working with Chin, and she made him a bunch of money, and because Stella's smart like that. So she's working with her father, but also a negotiator and a mediator between Chin and Columbo, which is nice, which is very nice. And I like throughout this episode, Bumpy was going through like the motions of seeing Malcolm, because the whole point of the story is like Bumpy Johnson was more of an angel and a devil compared to, well, in the last season where the painter or this artist drew like this beautiful artwork of Bumpy Johnson, and it's like half face was angel, half face was devil, because it's like, sure, he helped out Harlem and he done so much for the community, but then at the same time he sold a lot of narcotics that was also poison in his same community that he's helped. And it's like, it was more of a double-edged sword when it came down to Bumpy Johnson, and that's why it made him say, he wanted out of the Doogie business. So to see Chance and his friend, like, they outside, and then that's when they see like, oh, like some guy named Rocco is selling like Doogie in their neighborhood, and that's when they told Bumpy about it. He was just like, oh, under Chin. Even though I felt like, I wouldn't say like these men went into business for themselves. It could have been like a plan. It could have been like a plan just to get Bumpy back into the whole selling the narcotics. I don't know, because the way Chin kind of like killed the guy off, because he's like, this is what friends do. Because the way that in this episode Chin came off as pushy and not needy, but just very pushy. But he was like, come on, man, like, we friends, man, we friends. We've been in the trenches together. I killed this guy. This is what friends do. And then that's when he was just like, yo, what are we gonna do about this Doogie? Like, what are we gonna do about it? He was just like, well, it could have been fate, that Doogie is back in your hands. And he's like, nah, no Doogie. So, because he's trying to open up more, he's trying to have like more homes for Harlem, and more opportunities for Harlem. And that's when it was just like he's hit with like a problem that he can't solve, because it's like he's out of the heroin business and the narcotics business, so he can't make these new investments without having the money. So that's when these bankers came along and was just like, you have to put up everything, your house, everything, in order for you to get the money that is, the loan, like the loan that the bank is going to give him. So that's when he just, at the end, he signs the papers, because he's going to put up everything. But then I think it's going to cost him, because the way that I like in this episode, because it's setting it up for Bumpy Johnson to return back to selling Doogie, because he wants to be a good man. He doesn't want to sell Doogie and hurt the community anymore. But then at the same time, it's like, with all these new problems ahead, because when Bumpy was explaining this to Chin, where he says, I've been working with the Italians my entire life. I'm trying to do something different that doesn't involve y'all this time. But then Chin was like, no, you don't understand. Everything has to involve us. We have to be a part of your business. So Chin was trying to be nice and tell him like, well, all right, 60-40. Like, you take 60, I'll take 40, because we friends. And he was trying to come off as, we can work together. But Bumpy's like, no, I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this for Harlem. I'm doing it for my people. But Chin was arguing with him back like, but I was the one that protected you, though. I'm the one that's keeping you alive. But it's like, Chin doesn't understand, because it's like he's trying to do something for Harlem. He's trying to do something for, like, black people and black folks. And he doesn't want anything to be involved with the Italians. He's like, no, this is for me. But he's like, well, when are you gonna come off your high horse and come back to us? Because he's like, this is some bullshit that you want. You need to come back to us. You need to be like me and you, like the team. But it's just gonna cause another rift, I believe, because it's like Bumpy is trying to do his own thing. So it's very interesting and good at the same time, because the real story of, like, Bumpy Johnson and Italians, it was just like friends. I would say friends. It was just like business partners. Like they was working together, but and it's like he didn't. He had men, but it wasn't like that though. It wasn't like he was two steps ahead or whatever. Because there was stories about the actual Bumpy Johnson losing a couple of battles here and there, but ultimately he did technically do exactly what we saw the scene in the show of helping out Harlem, but then at the same time hurting Harlem because he was selling narcotics and selling drugs and gambling and all that other shit. But then at the same time, he really did do a lot for Harlem. Give out now turkeys, putting people through college and school and all the other good stuff at the same time. So it's very interesting at the same. It's very good. It's very good. But I believe that all of this is just gonna set up of the grand return of him coming back and be like, I'm gonna sell Gucci. I'm coming back. That's it. I'm selling Gucci. I got the spray. Like it's just gonna be great. It's just gonna be great. But overall, this episode was great. Let me know in the comment section down below, because motherfucker, I will cover this whole shit. I will cover this whole shit. Like if y'all want me to cover fucking like this entire season, I will fucking cover it. Just let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. And like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I catch you all in the next one. Also too, I forgot one more thing. So I like the story of what they was also telling too about like Malcolm X and how the FBI, the CIA, like everybody was basically intruding onto like Malcolm X, because at the time and even in the past, like Malcolm X was like really trying to like build up black people. He was trying to like fight the war because it's like about oppression, white supremacy, all that stuff that was actually happening in the past. And even the Democrats even mentioned stuff about the Democrats back then too, about the white devils and the ones who think that they know everything, and the ones that claim that they want to help you but really isn't trying to help you. Like he was explaining like a lot of stuff, and I really do like how they was going, about with the story. Now I'm talking like bits and pieces about what happened like in the last season, but it kind of like culminated over to like this season as well, because Malcolm X had like a very strong presence in this episode and throughout the show, because a lot of bad shit happened back in the 60s, and we know it was like the times back then, like the 50s, 60s, 40s, 30s, like it was horrible. It was horrible, because I remember there was like this article that I seen where I think this was even in the 40s, I believe, where a cop actually killed a black kid in Harlem, and then it was actually like a big riot. Now, everybody remembers like the George Floyd stuff that happened in 2020, right? Think about that happening, but it happened throughout history and throughout our history and throughout Harlem. And they had like people was burning out property. A lot of crazy shit was happening back in the days in Harlem. So to have bits and pieces of that to be put into this show was again, it's mind boggling. It's like wow, like okay, like we're getting to see more stuff that happened in the past comparing to like things that happen now. Even though sometimes they say history do repeats itself, but we're getting to learn those experiences and getting to see like the shit that actually happened, and trying to like making sure that we don't repeat those same mistakes. But as we see currently, those same mistakes are still being repeated. But that was it. I just want to add that in. So y'all know the deal. Like and subscribe.